This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
Michael, this is an honor and a pure joy to talk to somebody. Over 200 credits credited to your name at this point. And we're going to have to figure out where we're going to narrow in at certain places. But I know you come from the sports background, right? Like running back for football?
Right. Yes.
And then I want to know how an injury slams you into Juilliard. Like every actor in the world wants to get into Juilliard, and you're like, hold my ball. I'm going to go try this. I need to know just the audition process or just the inclination of that hard pivot. I had the same pivot. I blew out a knee in soccer, boom, over to acting. But acting was always percolating for me. I just couldn't do both. I wasn't able to do both in school. So I was wondering if you had what the experience was.
Well, for me, acting was not on my radar at all. I just literally lucked into it. I had some colleges looking at me to play football, but my injury actually happened in lacrosse, and I ripped my ankle, the ligament, so badly that I tried to recuperate, and my family didn't have the money for operations to, repair them. So I went without. And back then, the reason I jumped right into acting is because I was giving morning announcements in assemblies. This is probably 77, I guess, in high school, 78. And it was a prep school. I went to play football, inner city kid that got recruited to a very wealthy school that I actually fell in love with. One of 4 or 5 Black kids out of 500 students. And I don't know why, someone asked me if I would make an announcement in the morning assembly, because everybody at school was gathered, and all the teachers and everyone, everybody had their school clubs and announcements. And so someone asked me, I don't know why, someone asked me to do one, and I did. And it was kind of funny, I guess. And I enjoyed myself. And then the next person asked, and the next person asked. And this was while I was trying to recuperate to come back to play for the next season, but it just wasn't to be. And so someone asked me if I would audition for the play, one of the plays. And I thought, no, why would I do that? I'm not an actor. Athlete,
You're like, I'm a different A word. I'm the athlete, not the actor. Uh-huh.
Exactly. And I said no a few times. And thank God they kept at me. And I did. And believe it or not, the play was The Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh.
And yes, exactly. And the young girl playing Anne Frank was a Jewish woman whose family had been in the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. And so it was very personal to her.
Yeah.
When we got into rehearsals, and this is all brand spanking new to me, right? We got into rehearsals, and the director was asking about how we can relate to this piece, And so obviously for me, I have no relatives. Well, maybe not obvious, but I had no relatives in the Holocaust. I have no connection to that horrible part of history. Of course, I do have connection to slavery in America. And so that was my connection. The one thing I could think about that kind of is similar, if you can even make that connection. And oddly enough, the female lead was totally pissed off about that. Totally pissed off that I would make a comparison between slavery and the Holocaust. and it was offensive to her. And it was, and it became a big thing for a little while. And it was contentious for a bit. But to be honest with you, I loved all of that. It was hard. I was a 17-year-old kid. It was hard and it was frustrating, but the places that it led to and the exploration and the whole point of rehearsing and trying to figure things out and discover this and that and some good things and some horrible things, it all made me fall in love with being on stage.
So then the pursuit was acting. So then the pursuit was Juilliard. So we know you get in.
Right. No, the pursuit was not. I had no idea. I actually didn't know that there were schools, colleges where actors could go. I had zero idea. And I didn't even know, because I think I acted for maybe 8 or 9 more months. I did every play that came up at the school I would do. And then someone said, because I wasn't going to go to college for sports, someone said, you should go to a theater school. And I was like, well, what's a theater school? And they told me what it was. And they gave me a list of a few places I should audition for. So I said, okay. And I auditioned for those places, and one of them was Juilliard. And I still had no idea what Juilliard
that probably
was.
Served you then, because the pressure wasn't on. It just was. So did you audition for all of them? And you're like, oh, I got into Juilliard. Everybody else is pining for something, and you're like, oh, great, I got this one thing. Sure.
Yeah, I got in. I think I auditioned for 3 or 4, and I got into all of them. And I had to ask the guy who told me. I said, well, which one is the best? He said, you should go to Juilliard.
I love this. I love that a career like this, sometimes you just don't know, right? Some people are so on a path, right? And they will get it done. And other people miraculously fall into the shoes that were designed so perfectly for them without that pressure. So I want to jump from Juilliard, because you have a couple people in your class, and I want to jump to when I started watching you, which is ER. And I would love to know the audition for ER, because they're rebooting it right now. Not even a reboot. They're doing an extension. I don't know if you've heard. It's called
I did
The
hear
Pit.
Years ago, actually. Yeah.
Yes. So, because ER was so groundbreaking in television, and I'm at that point, you're still auditioning. What is this audition? What is this whole process for ER?
Well, for me, it was very unique, and I've never been through this type of audition before. So I originally auditioned for Dr. Peter Benton. Okay.
I know.
Right. Eric LaSalle, who ended up getting it, who is my best friend, who's been my best friend since 82, since Juilliard, actually.
He was in Juilliard as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I literally went in, I guess your audience knows networking and the network auditions. I went in one time with, I don't know which order it was, but I went in against Wendell Pierce, another great friend who went to Juilliard. We went together. They passed on Wendell, and I was still good. And then I went in against Isaiah Washington for my second time. They passed on him. I went in against, my goodness, like 3 or 4 people. And they kept passing on them and not passing on me. So I kept coming in again and again for the network, with the 30 people in the room. And it was clear to me that somebody didn't like me. Well, somebody did not want me, right? Because they had started shooting, actually. So the first day of shooting, by the time I was still auditioning, had begun.
No way.
I called Eric LaSalle. He was working in Portland and as a recurring on the show. I called him up and I said, listen, man, there's this great pilot that they are shooting, and you need to get your ass down here. He had just done a pilot he might have done a few episodes of a show called The Human Factor, where he played a doctor and he had his old scrubs and everything. And I said, you got to get your ass down here, because he was just a recurring up on this show. So he came down, he auditioned, he got the job, and I
he owes you.
Well, he owes me big time, of course. But he's been paying me back a lot. He casts me a lot because now he's a big time producer, director, But that was like almost like a 2-week process of me going in again, seeing the studio and the network, and hi guys, hi,
Right. Well, I want to ask the actory question, because if you're going in week after week, so people that are listening right now, we kind of we either seek to repeat or we're going to try and change it up, right, to earn that role. Were you kind of giving the same essence, same performance every time, or every week where you're like, well, let me try, or every time you were going back in, let me try something different? What was your technique around the consistency of going back again and again and again?
I think in some ways it got a little easier because I had been there before and with the exact scenes. And so it freed me up a little more to go for, because we all know that when you go in the network, the nerves are off the chart, right? Because this is something that can change your life financially, career-wise, all of that stuff, And this is obviously back in, I don't know what year it was, 91 or 91. Whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure. And, you sign the contract before you go into the room.
The worst system ever.
Yeah, it says how much money you'll be making per episode and all that stuff. So, and then you got to go in and impress all of these people in the room. So it did get easier for me. And I did, back then when I was auditioning, because let's see, I had been out of school maybe 7 years, something like that. Back then, I just had so much energy and passion, and I just let it rip every time. And I forgot all about any kind of technique or preparation because I prepared my ass off so I could just let it go. And to this day, I prepare my ass off, whether it's an audition or work or whatever. I'm a super prep guy.
Let me get into that before I bounce back out, because I ask every actor this. You preparing your ass off, you working for, if we count school, right? Like, you're 4 decades into this craft. You've wielded it. You're a seamstress now. How do you prepare? If you let us peek in, you can choose any role. How do you prepare other than reading the script, whether it's for an audition or getting on set? What are some of the tools in your toolbox that you like to take out when you're working on a character or working on a script?
I really rely, and maybe this is Juilliard, I don't know, but I really rely on the script. I don't do a lot of, I don't do too much history about the character, but I do, I think all the morsels are in the script. And I try not to, especially if you've been in TV for a while, because you'll get a storyline that pops up in 3 episodes and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know that, So I try not to decide where all these past details about my character, because I don't know them and I know they're going to come up. And so I don't want to box myself into something that I've decided, and then I'll read something and I'll be like, this is not right. I didn't decide.
I had my mother dead. She's alive? What do you mean?
She's alive?
What?
I respect so much the writing, and even when it's not great writing, that is my job. My job is not to say, fuck the writing, I'm just going to do my thing. My job is to enhance the writing that I have and not to deviate from it to the degree. Obviously, we make individual choices, but if I have a problem with the writing, I have to talk to the writer I don't just change it, and I don't just say this is stupid and this is, I got to try to figure out, I've got to find the minutia. I've got to find the character based on what is written. And I like to, and obviously when you're starting out, you can't just call up the writer and go, hey, man.
I was just going to say, when you're mining the script and you don't have access to the writer, what are you doing, Michael? Like, of course, you're on the script. So what are you kind of using to be able to get into that room and be like, here it is?
Yeah. I always feel like, I feel like I'm a detective, right? And all the clues are right there in the script. And that's my job, is to find those clues. And even when the writing is bad, sometimes you have to fill in things, but I don't pull them out my ass. They're still related to what I'm reading,
right?
What the story is telling me. I think a lot of people say, oh, well, why don't, and listen, there's a million different ways to work. And there's some amazing actors that work completely different than I do. And that's one of the great things about what we do. So you just have to find the thing that works for you and ride that sucker, And for me, it's always been, I just feel like, wow, there's so much for me to mine in the script. It's telling me so much. And obviously it's also colored by my life, what I've been through, what I've experienced, how I view things, even though I love to play people that don't view things the way I do. I think that's fun. I think that's exciting. And it's also, again, that's my responsibility to not overshadow what's written by what I think, or by my personal beliefs or anything. I think that's a disservice, and so that's why I try never to, like, nobody is good or bad in the people I play. You know what I mean?
No judgment on the character. I like to always go with justification, right? So,
right. There's always, doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be sane, but there's a reason that people do things. And that's our job, is to find those reasons and to deal with them, to make them a part of how we prepare and what we're going to present,
Yeah, I love that. Well, then let's go back to bookend ER. They did like you, because then I want to know when they call and they're like, I love that you're like, hey, I got the guy for you. Here's Eric.
Right.
Here you go. And then a lot of people, a lot of actors, I always say there's room enough for everybody. And that's why when I saw that in your history and I knew that you and Eric were pals, I had to ask about this, because I truly believe we can be a community, not be like, this is mine. Like, if I don't give this to you, I have a community of girlfriends. We've all been working for 25 years. We're on a text chain. Hey, do you know about this? I'm going in on this. Hey, you got that? What about this? I think you'd be great for this. Right. I want to see more of that happening. And you're the perfect example of this. So I want to hear how ER then decides to turn around and be like, actually, this is a better suited role for you. Or your mental health around, okay, I just got Eric the role.
Right.
Now what about for me? Like what? Yeah.
Well, I actually, the job that LaSalle was doing up in Portland, I ended up going up there and I was on his job. Not the same character. They created a new character, but because he left as a recurring, I came on as a regular. So I had signed a deal with CBS, and it was a show called Under Suspicion with Karen Silas, who is just a fantastic actress. I think she's still working. I know she's done a couple of things a few years ago with friends of mine. But so I ended up going up there. John Wells, because John Wells and I'm not talking out of turn. John Wells and Michael Crichton wanted me for Dr. Benton.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I kept coming back more and more and more, especially Michael Crichton, was at the time, rest his soul. So at ER became an instant hit, like phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
They asked me, John called and John said, listen, we have this recurring character that we don't have to go through the network with. We just want to offer it to you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But CBS said no, because now I was under contract with CBS. And this was NBC. ER was NBC. So they ended up casting another guy who actually did the first scene ever of the character Al Boulay in the very last, I think it was the last episode of ER in season 1. And so that was gone. So season 1 was done. My CBS didn't pick up my show, so my contract was over. So come the new year, I got a call. We want you to play this character, the same character we wanted you for before. And I, of course, I was watching ER because LaSalle was on it. And I said, what do you mean? This guy already exists. You already have an actor. And they said, no, it doesn't matter. We want to bring you on. And that was it.
I'm so glad I narrowed in on this one because I think people need to hear that, right? Like, it's just coming back to the work. There is a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. You just have to, and then, you're contracted over here. Every level of this industry has its highs and lows, right?
Yes.
You're on a show now and it's like, great. Okay, now you can't go do that other. Now you're trying to pull strings. That's why we have a team around us, right? So they can sit behind the scenes and try and see what they can do with the production team. Okay, so for lack of us time in the dense resume that you have, do you have that one audition that you want to share with us? Or was that the one?
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From scene study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created the Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
Do you have that one audition that you want to share with us? Or was that the one?
No, I think, well, of course, there's many, but my first audition, the first professional audition I ever did, I was still at Juilliard. I hadn't graduated yet technically, but it was, I was graduating very soon. I go in, I can't remember the casting director's name, but I go in, and before I say a word, before anything is said, she goes, because my resume was just Juilliard. Mm-hmm. She goes, Juilliard. Okay. So this is a film. So we don't do all that big over the top stuff.
You met the one casting director that doesn't have respect for Juilliard.
She did not like Juilliard. And she literally said, this is much smaller. It's much more personal. It's much more real and intimate. And, and I hadn't done a damn thing yet. It wasn't like I did.
It's not like you performed or did the audition. Yeah.
Music be the food of love. She just literally stomped me out before I said anything. So I just said, okay, I understand. Thank you. I did the audition, and she was like, that wasn't bad. Okay, that wasn't bad. And then I ended up I ended up getting the job. And literally I literally had to, because I hadn't graduated yet, I was going to have to leave school. And only one person had done that before me. And it wasn't something that they wanted.
It's not usually, it's pretty frowned upon, right?
Right. And so, but they allowed me to leave, and I was going to come back because I had to take a month in Florida or something. So, and talk about the business. A day before, this all happens in like 4 or 5 days, right? A day before I was supposed to leave, I got a phone call that they changed their mind and that they were going to cast another guy, and because he was just more appropriate for, the role. So just like that, I was fired. Before I did anything. This is the only time I've ever been fired, and that was the first time. And I go back to school, and
I love a good firing story. I say it to every actor that I mentor. I'm like, you're going to get fired at least once. I love that your firing is out the gate. I love you get your first job and you get fired on the same time. Yeah. At least you have Juilliard to go back to, right? Yeah. So like they take you right back. At least they didn't kick you out of school. That would have been way. Ooh, I was hoping that the story wasn't going in that direction.
No, it wasn't. But it was weird because my friend had been. I had a major role in one of the last plays, and they had given it to him, right, when I left. And then when I came back, they took it from him and they gave it back to me. And I was like, no, I'll do the other role. And they were like, no, that Juilliard was cutthroat back then. It's completely different now. And there was no choice. And it forever kind of soured that relationship that I had with the other actor. But,
Well, if you're willing to talk about some stuff like that, that is part of the business, right? This Juilliard, certain conservatories, I feel like just set you up for the mental part of understanding how the business is going to run. It's not personal. If we take it personal, we get annihilated. But what are some of the business things that you've kind of learned along the way that you'd be willing to share that you wish you would have known as a younger actor that would have helped you?
I think I don't know when I learned this, but it's been a long time. Like I learned it pretty fast, and it's tough. It's difficult. And I think one of the reasons I learned it is because I had a family from a young age, but I seem to come to the understanding that this is my job. I love it. I love what I do, but I never gave Hollywood too much power. I never allowed a time when I didn't get a job or when I was told I was too short or too this or too that. I was able to go home and focus on other things. And so throughout my career, I don't get too high and I don't get too low. When the great things happen, it's like, it's good, it's great, whatever. And when the terrible things happen, it's like, it's good, it's great, because there's something else down the road. But I can't focus on that because I got to come home. I got to take care of my son. I got to be dad. I got to be husband. And also I just don't feel, never felt it was smart to allow people to affect you to the point where forget about your week, just your hour is destroyed, So, and I've been fortunate, and of course I've had a really good career. So that obviously, of course, I've been rejected as much as anybody, right? So it's not just because I've been fortunate and have only worked as an actor. I've never had to do anything else. That is, to me, is the key. That's success. So whether or not you're famous or you have $10 million or whatever, if you have been able to support yourself as an actor, and only as an actor, or mostly as an actor, or, whatever, right? Then you are successful. You are killing the game, because this game is so fucking hard.
It's insane.
But let's not make it harder by giving these people control over how you feel when they don't give a shit about you. So why give a shit about them?
Amen. Preach. Yes. Preach to the choir. So then I want to ask some of the tough questions that you may or may not have had a plan for. You are genre bending. You have jumped from different places and spaces. You can do the horror world. You've done Insidious, right? You've done the Saw franchise. You've done so many things. Then we're over here doing Aquaman. We're doing television. You've not been contained inside any box. Was that purposeful? Did you have any control over that?
I don't think I did have control. I mean, I didn't do it purposely. One of the things I taught for a long time, and one of the things I told my actors is, take the work. Take the work. Like, why are you being so precious? If you audition for it, take it. You know what I mean? Years ago, it was different, right? Years ago, you were either a TV actor, you were a soap opera actor, you were a movie actor. It was very hard to
break in or mesh them, and you did it.
Right. And I was fortunate, I did. But today, and for the last 15 years, nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Who cares if you do a terrible movie or what? Now, and I'm not saying, oh, this is a terrible script, it's a piece of shit, do it. But what I am saying is that you need experience. Mm-hmm. You need to get your feet wet. It won't all be good experience, and only good experience is not good experience. You need bad experience too. You need to know that you can handle everything. You need to know that you are strong enough to weather whatever comes your way, that you can. It's great to have a single trailer and to be making, $1 million. But you know what? There's a lot of joy in sitting in a room with a bunch of other actors in a chair making, $1,000 a week or something, whatever it is, because you love the script and you love the people that you're working with, or you love the idea. And yeah, it might turn out to be a piece of shit, but is that all you? Mm-hmm. Everybody's done pieces of shit. Everybody, yeah. And for me, the things that I always remember far more than what a job has done is my experience on the job. The people I've worked with, the experiences I've had, and some of those jobs that nobody knows are the most fun I've ever had, or the most I've ever learned. Or some of the best relationships that I gained that I still have, So in terms of my choices, I just like to work, right? So I also like to be good. So it doesn't matter if I'm doing $200 million film or a $50,000 film. I bust my ass to do the best job I can. And if I can, and a lot of times on those smaller films, I come on as a producer, and all I try to do is enhance the script. I call my friends who are also good actors, and we work on it, and we bust our ass to try to get the best beat that we could get,
Yeah. Michael, what's one of the projects, because I mean, your resume is endless. What's one of those projects that you did love so much that was so good that maybe many audiences have not seen yet?
Okay, I did a film called Imminence.
Mhm.
Imminent. And my my wife signed up our kids to this dance class. And so every once in a while when I'm in town, I'm the guy that does all the, you know, back and forth, Mr. Taxi or Uber guy.
The shuttle, the dad shuttle.
Right. Exactly. So there was a guy there who saw me, he came up, he's like, oh, man, I love your work and da 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 da. Oh yeah, good to meet you, man. Yeah, every once in a while we talk. So eventually he came up to my wife and he said, listen, I don't want to go up to your husband. I wasn't there at the time, but I've got this script and I'm wondering if he reads, you know, unsolicited scripts and this and that. So she said, yeah, he does sometimes. And so I told her to get it, and he gave it to me. I read it. There was some, you know, it needed work, but there was some really interesting stuff in there. So I called him up, and I said, "Yeah, man, let's try to work on this a little bit." And we worked on it, and I said, as long as you're willing to collaborate, I'll do the job. I'll come on. I'll, you know, play the main character. And I'll call some of my friends and this and that. And so we did. And again, we raised maybe $250,000, and the shoot was so difficult and so hard and so crazy. And we were all living, because we went down to the marina. So we were all staying in these little bed and breakfasts that or what are they called? Yeah, the things you rent. So we stayed in those things. We were writing and rewriting as we were shooting and figuring out. And it was a blast. And then when I finally, and the director and I had a few back and forths, and one of the, you know, anyway, the movie, I was impressed by how it turned out. I mean, it's a teeny small movie, but I think the love that we put into it, and a lot of people that, you know, it got little reviews here and there. It played on Apple TV and it played in a few other places. Amazon has it and stuff, but it turned out pretty good. I was very excited about it. Imminence. And I did another one for $50,000 that we shot up in Seattle, where I enjoyed those more than the big ones, you know,
more than the $200 million one. Because that was going to be my other question. Like the year that you had, if what was it? If Beale Street Could Talk and Aquaman, you kind of shoot those at the same time. They come out at the same time, two totally different experiences. You're the same person, same. So I didn't even know how to ask the question, right? Where it, like you said, I'm showing up, I'm doing my job the same. Budget's different.
Right.
But how you even chose those two to do, or were those auditions, were those offers, right? Like I want to know when you get to that level, how you're juggling both of those. And even the press commitments, everything that goes into the business side of this now, because you've had a career at this point.
Right.
Did you know when you read If Beale Street Could Talk, this is going to be something that is going to garner so much attention versus the Aquaman that is going to demand so much attention?
Right. No, I mean, Beale Street, obviously, Barry Jenkins.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he had won the Oscar for Moonlight. And so you knew that, you know, his sophomore film was going to be talked about, you know. But I loved Regina King has been a friend of mine for a long time. And she actually, because she's a producer director too. And so she's directed me. She's produced things that I was in. So that was fun for me. And Coleman Domingo and Anjanou Ellis.
It's a beautiful cast. Everything about it, just beauty.
Great. Yeah. So for me, that was I need to be a part of this, and James Baldwin, so I just needed to be a part of it. And I didn't care what they were paying or, because it
and it's
was
such a sought after thing. Did Regina make a phone call to you, or was that, hey, I'll throw something down? Or was reputation able to trump, reputation and relationship, the two R's, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think I can't really remember how it came to be, but yeah, they
made that call.
I don't think it was Regina. Regina had nothing to do with it. I think I talked to Barry or something, and it came
Godspeed.
to be.
And yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then for an Aquaman kind of status, I just want to show different levels. Like, right. That's really, is Aquaman, are they making you jump through hoops for this?
Well, for Aquaman, see, I had worked with James. I did Insidious 2 with him. Mm-hmm. And I was actually supposed to do, and I can't remember the name of this film. He did another film where, let's talk about business. I can't remember the name of the film. I'm sorry, but it was another one of his horror films. I think I auditioned, and they came in. They made an offer, but it was too low. The money was too low, so I said no. And they, they were like, "Oh, well, what do what can we do?" I said, "Well, you got to pay me this much," And they were like, "No, we can't do that." I said, "Okay, well then, no," And in the meantime, I had gotten a series called Luck to play Dustin Hoffman's lawyer, and it was Michael Mann producing. And oh man, I got so close to doing Heat with him, but that didn't come through. But that would have been, oh my God, that would have been great. Anyway, so I got this show Luck, and then. Was it The Changeling? I think he had a film like that. But they came back and they said, "Okay, we'll pay you what you asked for." And I was like, "Well, I'm working now. I'm doing a TV series, and I'm working with Dustin Hoffman. So I choose Dustin Hoffman, Yeah. And we did the first episode of the second season, and then a few horses passed away at the track. And so that show got canceled. And so even that episode is gone. It just doesn't exist. So me on film with Dustin Hoffman is gone, and it's not even in my resume, because it just never. So I ended up losing that and not getting Changeling. So anyway, James had known me. But they did make me audition for Aquaman. This is 8 years ago. Uh-huh. So I auditioned, and supposedly the word is when James saw that I auditioned, he said, "Oh, Michael Beach." Oh, he said, "Offer him the job." So that's what I heard from casting. So,
Wow. Because I was even going to ask, and I know from now, I know you handled the audition the same. Does it matter to you? This big studio, the whole $200 million thing behind it. You just do, again, what's on the page. You're working, you let it go. I want to ask, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this, Michael, because you told these beautiful stories of like a $50,000 project, a $250,000 project. You read it and you're like, yeah, I love this. Actually, I want to do this. Then versus a little bit later at different points in your career where you read something and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll do this, but that's not enough money. What makes you decide when to pull on the string of what goes into your pocket and when you pull on the string of creative?
That's a good question, and it's based on the project, right? But if you're doing something for a studio, mm-hmm. a big studio, and you're like, come on, guys, you have money. I know you have money. I know a couple of people on the job, So sometimes it does become a kind of respect thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, I understand that there are a lot of people you could cast, and, having me in your film is not going to make it a $1 billion film. I get it. But I don't need to be in your film either. I don't need this film, and so you show me a little respect, and what do we do in the business? It's all about billing, money, trailer, right? And then points, but a lot of people don't get points, right?
And if you get the points, they don't sometimes even honor the points.
Producer points, right? And you have to hold them to the fire. But all other points are crap, right? Yeah. But the things that we all deal with is trailer, money, and billing, right? So when people are not giving you any of those three, then it's, you just go, especially when they come to you, you go, well, you guys came to me, so, and I've had this a few times over the years, some big producers, some big directors that I would be happy to work with. But you come to me and you offer me nothing. If you say to me, listen, I'm doing this, but it's only $100,000 budget and everybody is working for stuff. Yeah.
Different.
If I like it, that's like, dude, I'm in, no question. But when you have, $100 million to shoot, and I know so-and-so's getting this and so-and-so's getting that, and you come at me with nothing, then, so it just depends.
I think that answers it really nicely, is like understanding your worth. And you're right. Those are the three pillars. And I want to just thank you for being so honest, because everybody is at a different staircase. That's always like a different landing in their career. And hearing from somebody who's been working for a long time, it's nice to be able to get in there and pick the brains, right? To understand how you're doing certain things, what works and what keeps it going from a job into a career. Because talk about respect, Michael, I have so much respect for your career. There's so many jobs, so many projects. I want to say jobs. There's so many projects that you've been a part of that have entertained me, that have made me laugh, that have made me cry, that have moved me beyond. Your instrument is so strong. It's so beautiful to watch. Thank you, for taking the time to let me just pick in there at little things so other people could learn from you. Really, truly, just so, we could do a whole season just on your career. Truly. Really? I have so many other questions to ask, but I'm going to ask Hannah if I can have you back next season and we can pick into some other things.
Absolutely.
Really, you're a joy. You're a joy to be able to, it's a joy to be able to have access to your lineage of craftsmanship and business.
That's very nice to hear. I thank you so much, really. I do. It is, I do still love what I do. And I think that's important. And it's one of the reasons why it's important not to let Hollywood control how you feel and what you do and what you decide. It's a killer. It can be a killer.
It can be. And it keeps you working. So thank you. Thank you for your time. Are you on social media? Where can everybody find you? Literally, they can just turn on the TV and they'll find you.
I'm only on Instagram, just Michael Beach.
Beach.
Beach, yeah.
Okay, we're going to follow along. Thank you so much.
Thank you.